We have most of our application complete by now. We have a home page, we have a screen to add trips, we have a screen to display all the expenses for a particular trip. Now we'll be creating a screen where we can add expense to a particular trip, and in the end of the video, we'll attach everything to the Redux store. We'll be using new hooks such as use selector and use dispatch, and we'll have our entire application complete. So by this end of this video, you'll have your full-fledged application ready. Let's go.
So let's get started with the final part of our video, which is to create a form for adding expense and then wiring up with the Redux. So it's very easy. We'll go to the add expense file inside our screen, and this is it. So for this, first of all, we'll need some states. The first state that we'll need is a title for our expense. So we'll create a use state hook, set title. So I'm again repeating this is a React hooks that we get to give some, in normal words, we can say it gives powers to the functional component to work exactly same as class component. So this is use state hook, use state, and I'll import it from React. So here is it, use state. It is important. So apart from title, we will need few more things. The others are amount and category. So we'll say amount, set amount, which is use state, and the initial amount has to be 0, and finally a category. So I'll say category, and I'll say set category, which is going to be an empty string. So initially everything is empty. So these are the initial state for add expenses form. And yep, so also, since if you'll remember that when we were here, and if I click on add expense on this page, trip expenses, we are passing the selected trip as param. So we can extract it here in the add expenses page. So we'll say const selected trip. So for this we'll need two things here. The first thing is navigation, obviously, and the second thing is route. So what we'll do is this is route.param. So route.param. So also now if I go here, there should be a back button first of all. So for that, what I will do is inside my wrapper button, so the entire screen is divided into two parts, the upper part and the lower part where there is just one button. So for this, what I will do is, this is my wrapper. So I'll give it a class name, not the class name, a style name of styles.addExpense wrapper, styles.addExpense wrapper, add expense wrapper. And inside this wrapper, I will need two view, the top view and the bottom view. As for the bottom, I just need one button here. That's it. So what I'll do, I'll say add button, and this will work. So as you can see, add button is here, and inside this view, I just need one back button as of now, back button. So this is it. The back button and the add button are here. So for both of this, I'll just add the functionalities. So for my add button on press, I'll say that handle add press, handle expense added, handle expense added. So I'll create a function here, const handle expense added. So what this will do, as of now, this will just navigate me to my trip page. So what this will do is this will navigate me to my trip page. So navigation dot navigate to trip expenses page, trip expenses, and then also I have to pass the param since we are using it there. So if I click on this selected trip or banner, okay, there is some issue with this, that how we are using it. So there should be an S here. Now it should work. So if I go here, if I add expense, if I click on add, this is taking me back to this particular screen. So now this is handle expense trip function is handle expense added function is working. Also on back, it's very simple. I'll say on press, we just have to do one thing, navigation dot go back, navigation dot go back. So this should also work. Yes, this is also working. So I'll just quickly style the add expense wrapper here. So I'll style this add expense wrapper. For styling this, I need to give it a display of flex, and for the justify content, I want it to be space between, so that this should be to the push to the extreme ends of the entire height. But since their height is limited right now, so I'll give it height of 100%. So as you can see, the button is at the extreme end and the back button is at the extreme top. We just have to put our form inside this container. So for that, let's get started with the very first thing, which is a banner. So we'll create a view here, which will be our banner container, and I'll give it a style of banner container, style of styles dot banner container. And inside this banner container, I'll need an image. So I'll have to import the image from here, image, and for this image, the source. So for this, first of all, I'll have to export it from here. So from my assets, I'll have to export this add expenses banner. So I'll say add expenses banner. So add expenses banner will be require images, and then add expense dot png. I'll just check the name once if this is correct. Yes, add expense dot png. Great. I'll minimize it again. So now that we have exported it from here, I'll go to add expense dot screen, and for our banner, I'll give it as source as this, and inside my source, I'll say images dot add expense banner. You can see the banner is visible, slightly visible. We just have to style it a bit and it will be perfect for the UI. So what we'll do next is we'll give it a class name, sorry, style name of styles dot banner, styles dot banner. That's it. So I'll minimize this thing, and now I'll go and style both of this part, the banner and the banner container. So for banner, I'll need a height of 240 and a resize mode of a width of 120 pixel, 120%, so that it is stretched. Now again, the same problem, that it is shifting a little bit to the right. So we have to style the banner container here. So I'll say banner container. For banner container, you know the commands here: display flex, justify content as center, and finally align items as center. Perfect. Now it's in the center. The next thing that I want here is add task button. So what I'll do is subheading. I'll create a subheading container next to this image, which will be a view, and inside this view, I'll say styles dot subheading container, and next to this there will be a text which will say add new expense, and the style name for this will be styles dot subheading. Perfect. As you can see, there is a subheading called add new expense. We'll just style it quickly. So first of all, we have to style the subheading. For the subheading, I'll say text align as center. The next thing is font size of 18, and apart from this, also for the banner container, I'll have to do one more thing, which is position of relative, because what we are going to do, we are going to put this add new expense a little to the top, just how we did it here. So for this, for subheading, this is 18. I want it to have extra weight, so I'll give it font weight of 800, not 800, I'll give it 700. 800 is a lot. And finally, the text color of text. So I'll say colors.text. You can see it looks really nice. Now for the container part of this subheading container, what I will do is I'll give it a position of absolute so that I can put it above the banner, and then I'll say from bottom, just take -25, like partially above it. And for this, I need one more thing, padding vertical to be 12. And apart from padding vertical, I'll give it a width of 70%, means 70% of the entire width available. It is the width will be available once I give it some background color, which is colors.white. Perfect. You can see it is partially above the banner, and I just have to make the corners rounded. So border radius will be 18. Perfect. This is how it is looking. Now we just have to add the form. To add the form right now that our banner is added, what we will do is next to this, I'll start creating my form. So for this, first of all, I'll create a view, and this is my style is equal to styles.form, and inside my form I'll have form item. So what I'll do, I'll just copy my form item from my previous screen. I'll just import the text input here, text input. Now I'll go to add trip and I'll copy the form item from here. So this is it, the form item is copied from here, and I'll paste it two times basically. So where was I? Here. So this is for title. Instead of this set place, I'll say not title, and here set title. You can see if I go here, if I go there, a form item. Okay, instead of subheading, I'll have to give it a different class name. I'll say label. Yep, you can see that this is now being visible, and I'll just copy it one more time and paste it again. Where on earth, two times. Second one is for what, and this label is how much. So amount and title is done, and instead of this I'll say amount and set amount. Now since my amount is going to be a number, what I will do is I'll say number and I'll say this. Okay, I'll just ignore this warning as of now. So how much? And finally we need one more thing. We need the categories. So I'll just copy this one more time, and instead of having a text input here, I'll have categories of a lot of categories to be selected. So what I'll say, instead of this I'll say category. What I'll do, I'll create an array here, const categories, and this categories is going to be an array with all the categories that I have. This will help me in color coding all my expenses. So food, and then we had commute, and then we have entertainment, and finally we had others. You can make more categories if you want. You can remove certain if you don't want. It's all up to you. You can customize it however you want. So now for my category, now since it is here, for this I'll create another view. Inside this view, what I will do, I'll just make it smaller, and here I will map through the categories array. Now again as I told you that map is a prototype function on array that we have, and for each of the category that I get, what I will do, I will create a touchable opacity. Okay, I'll have to import it from here. Touchable opacity, and where was I was here, touchable opacity, and inside the touchable opacity I will need a text, just the category that I had. So cat, why is it not visible? I'll have to see. Okay, I'm not returning it from here. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to either do it like this, return it like this, option this. It's not working like this. So what I'll do is I'll cut it out, and for this particular part I'll just use, now as you can see all my categories are visible, which are all clickable. Also it's asking for a key, so I'll just ignore that as well right now, but you should pass a key wherever you can. So as you can see, shopping, food, commute, entertainment, others, all of these are clickable. So apart from this, so for the touchable opacity, I'll give it a style. Now suppose if I've selected a particular category, it should be highlighted. So for that, I'll say style. Again, I'll spread the category style that I'll write below, styles.category. And apart from this, I'll give custom background color. So for background color, now if category, which category, this particular category is equal to cat, which means for each of the mapped item, If both are equal, then give it as colors dot background color of, let us say, dark orange. Otherwise give it a background color of uh, white only. Let's say colors dot white. Perfect. So this is how it will work now. And for on press, what we have to do here is, where is it, on press. Now if I'll press any of it, I just want the category to be set to whatever category we pressed. So we'll say set category to whatever category we have selected. So you can see, like, if I select any of the category, the background color is changing. So this is working perfectly fine right now. If you got confused at what I did, just rewatch the video for last 5 minutes and you'll understand it very well. So next, for the text that we have, again I'll give it a style name of, let us say, category label. So obviously I'll do it like this, styles dot category label. But apart from this, I want the color to be depending on if it is selected or not. So I'll say if category is equal to cat, which means if this particular value is matching with my selected value, if this is true, then do one thing, then colors dot white. Otherwise just say black. So as you can see, for the selected one, the category is white, otherwise it's black. And yeah, so this is it. I am think it is working now. I just have to style the input box. I just have to style the categories and we are done. So let's start with the category first of all. Okay, so let's start with the category first of all, which comes after B. So category, for category, what I have to do is, for category, I have to give it a padding vertical of 12. As you can see, it's 12. Now a padding horizontal of 24, so that I can get a nice square box. Also, I wanted to have a margin right of 6, so that two categories are separated from each other. And so all these are styles are not visible. I'll tell you why. Because category options. So where are my category options? So this category, I'll give it a style name of category options, and I'll style it first of all. Style is equal to styles dot category options. P should be small. So this category options is the wrapper around all of the options that I have. So I'll style it out, category options. So for category options, I want it to be displayed as flex and in a row. So I'll say display as flex and flex direction as row. So as you can see, all of these are displaying in a flex, but these are not coming to the next line if they are exceeding the width. So for that, I'll say flex wrap as wrap. So as you can see, they are now wrapped. Also, I want some space between these two. So I'll say margin top as 12. Perfect. So where were we? Where we were at individual category. So for individual category, we want margin bottom of 16, so that there is some gap. And finally, we want border radius so that the corners are rounded. Border radius 18, of course. So as you can see, now we can select any of it and it is working. We just have to change the category label a little bit so that it has a little extra weight. So for category label, what I will do is I'll say font size of 12 and font weight of 600. So yes, it's looking nice now, as you can see. Now for form item, for both of this, I'll just copy the style from the add trip. So where is my form and form item? Just these two. So I'll copy this, I'll paste it here after C, and if I save it, this is looking like this. Now for label and for label as well, I'll copy it from add trip. Here it was in the name of subheading, so I'll paste it here. I'll save it. You can see the labels are now styled, And for the input as well, I'll copy it from here only. From add trip, I'll just copy this input and I'll paste it here inside FLI save. So there is a little extra gap between few of the things, so I have to remove that. So what I'll do is where is margin top, margin vertical, okay. So margin bottom, what I'll say, margin bottom to be 8. Instead of 8, I'll say 0. This will work. So yeah, this works fine now. So as you can see, the add expense page is fully created. Now, since this screen is created, I can enter the amount, I can enter the value here, and yes, this is it. So what we have to do right now is we have to add Redux functionality here. So instead of using mock data, we can start using the actual Redux that we created. So it's fairly simple. So every time we are adding an expense, what we have to do is we just have to go to handle expense that we had, and for this we need another hook. So we'll say const dispatch is equal to use dispatch. Now what use dispatch does is it dispatches, which means it gives or sets something inside a Redux store, and we are calling this and storing it in a variable called dispatch. So every time we add an expense, we'll create a data. First of all, const expense is equal to, first we will need an ID. So the best way to create an ID is date.now. So this will give epoch time in millisecond, which changes every millisecond. So there is a very high probability that it is going to be unique every time. So title is going to be same, amount is going to be same, category is going to be same, and okay, the spelling is wrong here, category is going to be same. So, and finally the data that we are going to send was a little different. If you will remember the Redux that we created, so if you don't remember, just go to our slice that we created inside our Redux, and you will see for add expense we had a trip ID and an expense. So here the data that we created had a trip ID. So trip ID. So the trip ID is going to be selected trip dot ID. Selected trip we got from the root params. Selected trip, and for expense. So in JavaScript, this basically means writing it like this means expense is expense. If the key and value are same, you can just write it once and this will work. So now what we have to do is we have to dispatch something here. So dispatch the function add expense, import it and pass the data here. That's it. Now if I go to add, not add trip, if I go to here, if I go to add expense, if I say bought tea for let's say 200 rupees, which was in food category, and if I add it, it must have been added to a Redux store. And the best way to check it is to remove all the mock data and then use it. So what I will do is, first of all, I'll go to add trip, and inside the add trip, we'll create another function here, handle add trip, const handle add trip, and inside the handle add trip, what I have to do is like this, it's an arrow function. So we will say const trip data. Now what this trip data will have, first of all, an ID is going to be date.now, since it will be unique every time. Now date.now, and apart from ID, place is going to be same as what we stored in this variable, and next to our place we'll have country, which will again be same. For banner we will have place banner, and finally expenses will be an empty array, because the moment you create a trip you don't add any expense, so it is empty by default. We will add it later, and you can add it by clicking on this button. So again we have to create a dispatcher here. So we'll say const dispatch is equal to use dispatch, just call it like this. And now dispatch, I'll say add trip and just pass the trip data. See how simple it was to integrate Redux into your application. Now I just have to do one thing, that when we are clicking on add button, instead of calling this from here, I'll remove this. I'll say handle add trip and just paste it here. So this is all working now. You can see. Now we just have to remove the mock data. So to remove the mock data, we have to go to home and delete this entire mock data. Perfect. Now there is obviously an error because we are passing the mock data as data. So for this, we are going to use another hook, which we call as use selector. Now use selector will select the values that we need from our store. So for that, we have to call use selector, and let's go to home, and inside our home, we say const trip list is equal to use selector. Now use selector will take the state, and from the state we'll filter out state dot what is the reducer's name, which is trips, and then what values we need, state dot trips dot trip, and from instead of mock data we'll say trip list. See, there are no trips as of now, so we haven't recorded any trip yet. But if I say, let us say where Kerala, which is in India, and if I click on add trip, you can see Kerala is added here. But since if I now go to Kerala trip expenses, again I'll delete the mock data here. Just delete this mock data, and we'll do the same thing from here as well. So, but here we just have to write a few more lines because in our trips array there are a lot of trips, and we just need the expenses of that particular selected trip. So what we will do is const expenses is equal to use selector, and inside my use selector I'll get the state. So for this state, now I'll call an entire function. I'll say const trips. So I'll filter out the trip. First of all, state dot trips dot trips. So these are all the trips that I have in my Redux store, and from this I'll say const expenses to be shown is equal to trips dot filter. Now I am filtering out. Again, filter is JavaScript array prototype array function, which means I can filter out from an array the items that I want. So I'll say that if trip.id is equal to selected trip.id. So which means if the IDs are matching, then only expenses should be extracted. Now this, and here, if expenses to be shown dot length, length, if the length is greater than 0, now since this this filter function always passes an array, so we can't directly return it. We have to use the indexing. So I'll say return expenses to be shown 0th dot expenses, which means this will be a trip, and for that trip I need just the expenses. So I need an S here as well. Otherwise, just return an empty array. That's it. So this is working now. And instead of mock data here, I'll say expenses. So this is it. Now if I'll go to Kerala, you can see there are no expenses. And if I'll add an expense, let's say bought coconut. These are very famous in Kerala. I'll say for 40 rupees, food again. And if I add it, you can see bought coconut is here. So this was the entire application that we built in the past few videos. I hope you enjoyed it, you learned a lot, and if you have any doubts so far, do comment it out. I'll surely reply you, and make sure that you are coding along with me. All the code will be available on GitHub. So again, a big thanks to Newton School because they're doing a fabulous job in building whatever they are. So that's it. That's from my side. So thank you. See you in the next tutorial. See you in the next video. Make sure you have liked, subscribed, and share with your friends. Thank you.